What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Adventure Outpost, your hub for all things movie related. Another weekend has come and gone. It is once again time to talk those juicy box office numbers, and it was going to be interesting to see what was going to happen this weekend. Marvel is famous for those second weekend drops, and we were looking to see just how bad Ant-Man's was going to be, and boy howdy, I knew it was going to be bad. I didn't know it was going to be record-setting bad, but it was pretty turbulent. We're going to get into all that here today. We're going to see how Cocaine Bear stacked up against Ant-Man's second week and all the other good stuff that came into the top 10. And as always, we're going to take a look here first now. We usually start with the top 10, but I think I'm going to shake it up now because usually I say how much the top 10 made and what we're down or what we're up. So I think we're going to start with that chart, our 2023 box office week-to-week numbers. So we take a look real quick right here and look. And you see our latest week, week 8, we made $87 million here at the box office, which was a 37.2% drop over last week of $135 million. So once again, we've dipped below the 100 million line. Ant-Man's second week drop was enough to shatter us back under the 100 million mark. Cocaine Bear did phenomenally well for the weekend, but that wasn't enough to help keep us over the $100 million blockbuster line. So for week 8, we have dropped back under 100 million. We are now sitting at only 2 weeks so far of the year that managed to be over 100 million. So we've got our work cut out for us here for the rest of the year so far. February, January, I mean, we knew it's usually like that. We were hoping it would be a little bit better, especially in February at least, because there were a bunch of good movies coming out in February that had the potential to make some blockbuster status, but unfortunately they all fell short. But March looks ready to set and be absolutely huge for us. We have a lot of movies coming out in March, so hopefully as we go into the March month now, we will be able to get more $100 million weekends. And now we'll dive into all of the main good fun stuff. We'll drop into our top 10 and we'll see just how well all of these movies did and where they ended up here in the list. We kick it off, and to nobody's surprise, Ant-Man managed to hold on to the number 1 spot, but it was closer of a fight than we expected. I didn't think that it would be as close as it did, but it was within $10 million, which is fucking amazing for Cocaine Bear and terrible for Ant-Man and the Wasp. But you see, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania holding on in first place in its second week. It drops 69.7%, a 70% drop. That is fucking astronomical. That is record-setting for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think Black Widow was the biggest second week drop, and that was simply, you could chalk that up to during COVID times and day and date release. But this is the biggest one for a movie that was released just in theaters, and it was set to be huge kickoff for Phase 5, huge kickoff for Kang, and we are limping here already in the second week. This is not a good sign for Marvel. Like I said last time when we talked about Marvel, that there's something there that's not clicking, and they need to go back and they need to get into that drawing board, they need to get in that writer's room, and they need to iron out and figure out what they're doing that is not keeping asses in the seats. Because if this is the debut for your next big bad, that is not a good sign for things to come. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, though, takes in $32 million to bring its total domestic haul to $167 million off of a $200 million budget. So still a ways to go for it domestically, at least, to make its budget back. It's got a little bit of a trek there for itself. Obviously, when it all is said and done, like most Marvel movies, this one's not going to be considered a flop, but the fact that we have these huge drop-offs from week to week, now from week 1 to week 2, absolutely insane. There's something that needs to be said. There's something that they need to figure out to see why they are not getting that return that they used to see on all of these movies. But the big win for the weekend, obviously, in second place, Cocaine Bear debuting the $23 million off of a $30 million budget. Universal's always been my favorite film studio. They always put out stuff that I loved. Obviously, it had to do a lot with that man right there, Steven Spielberg. Fucking did wonders for Universal. But Universal has always put out just, I think, the most interesting movies to me that at least pulled me into something. They make reliable movies. And something that they've been doing so far in the last few months is that they have been making non-blockbusters / IPs, like they've been making original movies that are made for a modest budget that have been turning profits. So we are finally starting to see the mid-budget movie come back in a form. We've got a lot of movies this year that were mid-budget releases that are doing well at the box office. Universal back in December kicked it off with Violent Night, a modest budget, made its budget back tenfold. It's now going to get a sequel. It created itself a new franchise. January did it again with Megan, made on a shoestring budget, made a kickload of money. We're getting a sequel. Now they've made another franchise there. And now here we are again in February. Off of good word of mouth, off of great marketing, Cocaine Bear debuts to $20 million off of a $30 million budget. Another modest budget that they're going to make a good return investment on. I don't think we're going to get a Cocaine Bear franchise, but fuck it, I wouldn't complain if there was another one. Somebody walks into an office, writes down Cocaine Bear, and then just writes an S at the end of Bears. So now we got Cocaine Bears. I'd be all for that. Even though there pretty much is cocaine bears in this one. Spoiler alert. I did go see the movie last night. It is absolutely ridiculous. It's just what you want out of your silly mid-budget movies. But there have been a string of them this year, and it's so great to see them coming back. Knock at the Cabin, made for a modest budget, is going to turn a profit. 80 for Brady, A Man Called Otto. It is wonderful. I think one of the best things COVID did for us is that it's going to bring back the mid-budget movie in theaters, and they are making a modest-sized hits from them, which is great to see. So good on you, Cocaine Bear. It's going to be interesting to see what you do going forward now, how much money you're going to be able to pull in, because like I said, March is going to get stacked. March, you got a lot of competition you got to play against. Like next week, you not only do you have to continue to play against Ant-Man, but you have to play against Creed 3. Then the week after that, you have to play against Scream 6. And then the week after that, Shazam, and then John Wick, and then Dungeons and Dragons, and then Super Mario Brothers. Like it's going to be very, you got to make money up front. So this $20 million opening is huge for Cocaine Bear. In third place is another new movie, Jesus Revolution. We're going to talk about little mid-sized budget movies here. This one, again, made its budget back in its opening weekend. I remember seeing the trailer for this movie. I am a Kelsey Grammer fan, thanks to Frasier and Cheers and all that good stuff. I didn't think this movie was going to end up making that much money, but bam, look at that. Opening weekend, $15 million off of a $15 million budget. We're talking ad nauseum about modest budget movies that are turning profits. Put Jesus Revolution on the list here. I haven't seen that movie yet. I'm going to go see it this week because I got to check out my Kelsey Grammer stuff. He is the man. But it is awesome to see, once again, another mid-budget movie making itself a nice chunk of change at the box office. In fourth place, Avatar: The Way of Water in its 11th week, dropping 28.2%. It takes in 4.7, just about $5 million to bring its total domestic haul to $665 million off of a $460 million budget. This movie it's insane that it just continues to make $5 million like every week after week. And it's 11th week. It's just absolutely absurd. Another movie that's absolutely absurd. These two movies, Avatar and Puss in Boots, just absolutely crushing from the holidays forward. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, still in theaters in week 10, dropping only 22.8%. It also brings in $4 million to bring its total domestic haul to $173 million off of a $90 million budget. These two movies, resounding successes from the end of 2022. The only movies still hold over from 2022 that just continue to make stupid amounts of money week after week. Taking a look at the back five, we got Magic Mike's Last Dance in its third week, dropping 65.2%. Dear God, that's another terrible drop-off. It makes $1.8, just about $2 million, bringing its total domestic haul to $22 million off of a $45 million budget. This movie, just ignoring what should be the modest budget. I don't know how that movie cost $45 million to make. It's just absolutely absurd. So this movie got a ways away to go if it's going to make any type of money, and I don't think it's going to, because like we talked about with all the crazy stuff that's coming out forward, I think Magic Mike is all but done, and it is going to end up being one of the first box office bombs of 2023 that will add to the box office bombs list. Knock at the Cabin in 7th place in its 4th week, drops 52.9%. It takes in 1.8, just about $2 million to take its total domestic haul to $33 million off of a $20 million budget. Another just modest size hit. Right after that, you got another modest size hit. We got 80 for Brady in the 8th spot, and also in its 4th week, dropping 51.2%. It takes in 1.8, just about $2 million to bring its total domestic haul to $36 million off of a $28 million budget. Knock at the Cabin, 80 for Brady, neck and neck right there. Just pretty much doing the exact same business week after week. Just slowly adding money to its short little runtime there. These movies, it's great to see these movies do well, regardless of what you think of the movies, regardless of the critical acclaim or whatever it is. It is a good time at the box office right now for movies like this to be turning the amounts of profit that it is. This is a healthy sign for the box office, and we need more movies like this throughout the year that are going to help offset with the blockbusters to make this a banner year post-COVID. In 9th place, Missing, still holding strong in there in its 6th week, dropping 42.2%. It takes in $1 million to bring its total domestic haul to $31 million off of a $7 million budget. Just destroying its box office return right there. So I'm sure the fucking missing and searching universe will continue. And rounding out the top 10, again, this has just been a story of box office hits right here, of mid-sized box office hits. The whole back and five, with the exception of Magic Mike, just mid-sized budget hits. You got A Man Called Otto rounding out the top 10 in its ninth week, dropping 46.9%, taking in $850,000, bringing its total domestic haul to $62 million off of a $50 million budget. Now, as always, we'd like to take a look at our highest grossing worldwide and our highest grossing domestic for 2022 and 2023. We still chart along with 2022 because we still have a few holdover movies. We are still charting along with Avatar as long as it stays in theaters. So we begin with the top 10 worldwide for 2022. We won't look at the bottom ones. We're looking straight at number one, Avatar: The Way of Water. We take a look here. Avatar: The Way of Water is sitting pretty in number one. Now it's up to $2.267 billion. This movie is just making stupid amounts of money. It is just absolutely insane what this movie has been able to do. And then we take a look at our top 10 worldwide for 2023. Full River Red still hanging strong in the number one spot with $655 million. The Wandering Earth 2 in second with $572. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania in third place with $363 million worldwide. So it's made itself a decent little amount there worldwide. It's going to, I'm sure, start to make its money back very shortly, but we'll see how high it's able to get up there when all is said and done. In fourth place, we got Boonie Bears with $207 million. Megan riding out the top five with $172. Hidden Blade with $134. Deep Sea with $124. Pathan with $123. Once again, here to mispronounce this, Cheparashka makes $89. And rounding out the top 10 is 500 Miles with $57 million. We turn now from our worldwide and we look domestically. We're going to take a look right now first at our top 10 domestic from 2022. We take a look here at the chart. Avatar: The Way of Water still holding strong in the second place. It's trying to make up that deficit, but once again, I still don't think it's going to have the goods when all is said and done to overtake Top Gun Maverick's $718 million in the number one spot. Avatar: The Way of Water sitting pretty in second with $665 million, but it's making its play, baby. And then we look at our top 10 domestic for 2023. Ant-Man and the Wasp, no surprise, in first place with 143. Megan bowing out in number two at 94. It's going to end up settling right around where I said at $95 million. 80 for Brady in third with 35. Knock at the Cabin right behind that with 32. Plane at 31. Missing at 30. Magic Mike's Last Dance at $23.2 million. Cocaine Bear right behind it at 23 on the nose. Jesus Revolution in the ninth spot with $15 million. And House Party holding on for dear life in the 10th place at $8 million. Enjoy your last week in there, House Party, because once Creed comes to the party next week, you're fucking out on your ass. Now, as always, before we continue, we like to take a look at our fallen heroes. These are our gone but not forgotten heroes, the guys who did their time in the box office but have now bowed out for greener passages. We have two movies that have bowed out of the top 10 this week. We take a look here at the chart. Marlowe, after spending 1 week on the chart, bows out, and the Titanic 25th anniversary re-release after 2 weeks on the chart bows out. You guys had your say. You did your due. We appreciate your time in the top 10, and we will see you on physical media. And as always, we thank you for your service. We turn our attention now to the highest grossing worldwide movies of all time. We're seeing where Avatar is going to end up. We take a look here at the chart. Avatar: The Way of Water now sitting firmly in the third place. It has managed to just continuously overshoot from Titanic. They were playing neck and neck last week, but Avatar has firmly left it in the dust. Avatar is now at $2.267 billion, has a long ways to go if it wants to get anywhere near close to Avengers Endgame at $2.797. So like I have said before, I think Avatar: The Way of Water is going to end up settling for third place and be the third highest grossing movie of all time, but I wouldn't put it against Avatar to just continue to make money and get itself close to that. I could see it ending up at least closer to 2.7 than it is right now. It's at 2.2. I think it can make I think it could end up settling around like 2.4, maybe 2.5, but I do think it's going to end up settling for third place. And then from there, we turn our attention to the highest domestic grossing movies of all time and seeing where Avatar is placing right now. Avatar right there in the ninth spot as 665 right now, has a little bit ways to go to pass Titanic at 673. I think that is all but assured that it will at least pass Titanic. I don't know if it'll have any more in it to pass Avengers Infinity War, which is at 678. But again, I wouldn't put it past Avatar to do Avatar shit and end up passing Avengers Infinity War as well. I don't think it's got it in it to hit 700,000 and pass Black Panther, but I think it might end up maybe just passing Avengers Infinity War and then finally bowing out here here for its final tally. Now, we don't have any movies to add to the Blockbuster status chart this week, but we do actually are going to be able to finally return a chart that we haven't seen since the end of 2022, and that is our movies that have been able to hold number one for more than 1 week. We haven't been doing it simply because it's just been Avatar that's been on there, that has just been running roughshed, and then every movie that's come to save a place in first place has been bowing out after 1 week. They say they're saying, and they get the fuck out of there. But now we finally have a movie that can be added to this chart, and it is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We take a look here at the chart for the movies that have held number one for more than 1 week. You got Avatar that ran roughshed through December and January. It held it for 12/16, 12/23, 12/30, January 6th, January 13th, January 20th, and January 27th. That is fucking so astronomical. And then now we can add Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania to the party. It is held February 17th and February 24th. The big question now we'll see, is it going to be able to hold it for a third week? Will it be like the other Marvel movies from last year that we're all able to hold on to for a box office for at least, 3 weeks? Doctor Strange was able to do it, and so was Black Panther. Thor didn't do it. Thor only held 2 weeks, but that was because it came out in the summer when you have to vie for a lot of box office contention back then. But Black Panther and Doctor Strange just ran roughshed through their time, holding strong for at least 3 to 4 weeks before, all was said and done. I don't think Ant-Man and the Wasp is going to be able to join those boys. I think it's going to be like Thor, where it's only going to hold 2 weeks. I think next week Creed 3 is going to take the number one seed. And it's just, what are you going to do? Creed 3 looks really fucking good. Ant-Man just not keeping asses in the seats. And then last but not least, before we bow out, we take one last look here at our 2023 top 10 chart riders. These are our movies that have been staying in the top 10 for the longest. We take a look here at the chart. Ant-Man and the Wasp at the bottom now is debuting here on the chart, now having held its spot for 2 weeks. It is tied with Titanic that held for 2 weeks. I'm sure Ant-Man and the Wasp will be moving its way up here, I'm sure. Even though it won't be in number one for long, it will probably hang around in the top 10 for a while. Right ahead of those two movies, Magic Mike: Last Dance been in the top 10 for 3 weeks. 80 for Brady and Knock at the Cabin, both sharing 4 weeks apiece in the top 10. Plane had spent 5 weeks in the top 10. Missing and Megan have spent 6 weeks in the top 10. And then the top 3 movies, all tied for number one right now, have all spent 8 weeks in the top 10. So we will continue to chart along with these as the year goes on, and we'll see, just when it's all said and done, just what ended up staying in the top 10 for longest, what had the best box office legs for the year. And that'll do it for all of us here at the Outpost today. It was another glorious week here charting along with the numbers. I love watching second to week movies, especially big blockbuster movies, to see how much they tank in the second week, and see how well they hold over, to see what they end up doing. And Marvel, definitely they need to figure out what they're doing wrong if they want to start making that good crisp money again. I think it won't repeat itself with Guardians. I think Guardians is going to end up doing very well. I'm sure it'll have a good second to week holdover. But again, for that one, I don't know if I can accredit that to Marvel and the MCU as much as I can accredit it to James Gunn being a very good writer-director. That man knows how to make very entertaining and well-made movies. And the Guardians movies have always been the bread and butter. They've always done well. So I think we're going to see an outlier again. And same as Spider-Man No Way Home was an outlier, where it was like the one good movie from Phase 4. I think we're going to get that right now with Guardians possibly being the one good movie from Phase 5. It will be the outlier, and it will be all due to the certain people behind the scenes and not specifically to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I think they'll need to sit back, and they'll need to look at stuff like that and be like, what can we do that ensures that we're getting back to those kind of returns on every movie and not just one movie a phase. So stuff to think about, stuff to go back and look at, but it has been an exciting time to watch here at the box office. It's going to be an exciting next few weeks as we get into March. Like we said, this weekend we've got Creed 3 coming out, and the Guy Ritchie movie Operation Fortune, I think it's called. That movie, I think, is not going to make any money, but it looks entertaining at least. So maybe, who knows? Maybe it might get a little bit money. But I think Creed 3 is going to be the big winner next week. Week after that, you got Scream 6, 65. Week after that, you got Shazam. Week after that, you got John Wick Chapter 4. Week after that, you got fucking Dungeons and Dragons. And then kicking off April, you got Super Mario Brothers. So the next few weeks are going to be absolutely insane to watch along here. It's almost like a mini summer right now. This is like the pre-summer as we're getting ready here. We just got banger after banger coming out. I remember back in the day, March always used to be stacked. They'd put out a big hit that would always end up doing well. I remember like Beauty and the Beast one year came out in March, and that just absolutely destroyed March. It was fucking crazy at my theater. So it's going to be very exciting to watch along here and see how these movies do in March, and just how they vie for each other for contention for first place. If anyone's going to be able to hold on to the box office #1 spot for more than a week in March, is going to be super, super interesting to watch. But that'll do it for all of us here at the Outpost in this adventure. Until the next one, you have been you, I have been me. These are the movies that we love so much. And until next time, I'll see you at the movies.